Let me tell you something right now. Worry will wear you down faster than any trial you're facing. Worry is heavy. Worry is a burden that presses on your chest in the middle of the night, a whisper in your ear when you're trying to focus, a shadow that follows you even when the sun is shining. And here's the truth: you were never designed to carry it. You were never created to live with the weight of worry strapped to your back like a yoke that won't break. That is why so many people are tired, not because of the trial itself, but because of the load of worry they keep trying to drag along with it. See, the enemy knows if he can't destroy you, he'll distract you. If he can't defeat you outright, he'll drain you with worry. You'll be so busy rehearsing the worst case scenario that you won't even recognize the God who is still making a way out of no way. Worry makes you think you're being responsible when in reality you're just being robbed. Robbed of sleep, robbed of joy, robbed of focus, robbed of peace. Worry is not planning. Worry is not preparation. Worry is fear dressed up like wisdom. But God said, cast all your cares on me because I care for you. That's not just a nice verse for your refrigerator magnet. That's a lifeline. He's saying, why are you holding what I already promised to carry? Why are you fighting battles that I already declared I would win? When you carry worry, you're saying, God, I don't trust you to handle this, so let me hold on to it a little longer. But the moment you release it, the moment you say, Lord, this weight is too heavy, but I know your shoulders are strong, that's when peace begins to flow. Think about it. Worry doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the diagnosis. It doesn't change the deadline. It doesn't change the decision someone else has to make. What it does is change you. It changes your posture. It changes your faith. It changes your energy. And when you're bent down under the weight of worry, you can't even lift your eyes high enough to see the God who still sits on the throne. There's somebody listening right now who has been dragging the same bag of worry for years. You worry about your children. You worry about your job. You worry about bills. You worry about your health. You worry because that's all you've known. But can I tell you something? Just because worry has been your habit doesn't mean it has to be your future. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's yours to keep. God is calling you to put it down, and the only way to put it down is to put it on Him. The weight of worry is too much for you, but it's nothing for Him. He's not intimidated by what scares you. He's not pacing the floor of heaven, wringing His hands, wondering how it's going to work out. He already knows. He already has a plan. While you're losing sleep, He neither slumbers nor sleeps. While you're biting your nails, He's preparing the next chapter. You don't serve a God who reacts. You serve a God who reigns. And because He reigns, you can release. I know sometimes it feels like if you don't hold on to worry, you're not in control. But the truth is, you're not in control anyway. Worry just tricks you into thinking you are. Release doesn't mean giving up. It means giving over. It means handing the reins to the one who sees the end from the beginning. It means trusting that even when you don't know how, God already knows when. The enemy wants you so tied up in the knots over what might happen that you forget to praise God for what already did happen. You're worried about tomorrow, but didn't He keep you yesterday? Didn't He provide when you didn't know where it was coming from? Didn't He heal what you thought was broken beyond repair? If He did it before, what makes you think He won't do it again? Sometimes you've got to talk back to your worry. You've got to remind it who your God is. You've got to stand up and say, this weight is not mine anymore. I'm laying it down. I'm releasing it. I'm giving it to the one who promised to carry me through. Every time worry tries to climb back on your shoulders, you tell it, no, not today. My Father's got this. My God's handling it. My peace is too precious to give away. Because here's the power when you let go of worry. You make room for worship. When you let go of worry, you clear space for peace. Worry clutters your heart, but trust clears it out. And when trust steps in, peace takes over. The weight of worry may bend you, but the peace of God will lift you. The load may crush you, but his hand will carry you. So stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Stop dragging chains that God already broke. Stop trying to fix what only he can heal. The weight of worry is not yours to carry. Now give it to him and let peace be your portion. Prayer is not just a ritual, not just a set of words you repeat when you're in trouble. Prayer is the doorway to peace, the lifeline that connects you to the presence of God when everything around you feels unstable. Prayer is where your heart meets his strength, where your weakness collides with his power, where your anxiety is exchanged for his assurance. That's why the enemy fights your prayer life so hard. He doesn't mind you worrying. He doesn't mind you stressing. But the moment you kneel, the moment you open your mouth and cry out to the Father, that's when chains start breaking. That's when peace starts flowing. That's when burdens start lifting. Some of us treat prayer like an emergency exit, something we run to when the fire is already raging. But prayer is not just an escape route. It's an entrance into the presence of the one who knows the fire can't consume you. Prayer doesn't always change the storm, but it will always change the sailor. Prayer won't always move the mountain overnight, but it will strengthen the climber for the journey. That's why you can't afford to neglect it. You can't afford to treat it like the last option. Prayer has to become the posture of your life, not just the panic of your moment. When you pray, you're not just reciting lines, you are releasing weight. You are saying, Lord, I don't have the answers, but I know you are the answer. I don't see the way, but I know you are the way. I don't have the strength, but I know you are my strength. And in that release, something happens inside of you. Peace begins to rise up, not because the situation changed instantly, but because you changed. Prayer shifts the atmosphere of your heart even before it shifts the atmosphere around you. You've got to understand, peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of God in the middle of them. And prayer is what ushers that presence in. That's why you can be in the hospital and still have peace. Why you can have more bills than money and still have peace. Why you can face uncertainty and still have peace. Because peace is not fragile, it's fortified. It comes from heaven, and prayer is the channel that brings it down into your life. Some of you are wrestling with thoughts that won't quiet down, fears that keep circling in your mind, voices that tell you it's not going to work out, and you've tried everything, talking to friends, distracting yourself, even denying it, but the weight won't leave. That's because peace doesn't come through avoidance. It comes through alignment. When you align your heart with God in prayer, his peace begins to guard your mind like a soldier on duty, blocking the lies, silencing the fears, standing watch over your soul. That's why Paul said, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. He was teaching us that anxiety is overcome, not by control, but by surrender. When you pray, you're surrendering, not giving up, but giving over. You're placing the trial in the hands of the one who can carry it better than you ever could. And I don't know who this is for, but God says stop rehearsing the problem in your head and start releasing it through prayer. Stop running circles in your mind and start running to the throne. Stop thinking peace is going to show up after everything is fixed. No, peace shows up while it's still broken because prayer invites the Prince of Peace into your storm. When you pray, you are opening the door to the God who can do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask or think. And when he steps in, peace comes with him. So don't just carry it. Pray it, release it, and let peace walk into the room. The peace of God is not fragile. It is not the kind of peace that breaks when life breaks. It's not the kind of peace that shatters when the storm rages louder. The peace of God is built to endure. It is an anchor in the middle of the storm, a shield in the heat of the battle, a calm voice that steadies you when everything else is screaming chaos. The world gives you a fragile peace. Peace that depends on a paycheck clearing, peace that depends on a doctor's report, peace that depends on people liking you. But the peace of God is different. It does not depend on circumstances. It depends on his character. And because his character never changes, his peace never fails. This is why Jesus could stand in a boat with waves crashing and winds howling and still sleep like a baby. The disciples were panicking. The storm was raging, but he was at rest. Why? Because peace was not around him, it was in him. He was showing us that real peace is not external, it's internal. Real peace is not based on what the storm is doing, it's based on who is in the storm with you. That's why you can walk through seasons that would have broken somebody else and still keep your mind. That's why you can go through things that should have destroyed you and still come out with your worship intact. Because the peace of God is not fragile, it's fortified. Fragile peace needs conditions. God's peace needs no conditions. Fragile peace says, I'll be calm if everything goes right. God's peace says, I'll be calm even if everything goes wrong. Fragile peace says, I'll sleep when the bills are paid. God's peace says, I'll sleep while I wait on the provision. Fragile peace says, I'll trust if I can see. God's peace says, I'll trust even when I'm blind. That's why the Bible calls it a peace that surpasses all understanding, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's not logical to have calm and chaos, joy and sorrow, confidence and uncertainty. But that's the kind of peace that only God can give. You see, the enemy wants you to think peace is breakable, that it comes and goes depending on what's happening around you. But the truth is, peace is your inheritance. Jesus said, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives. That means the peace he gives is unshakable, unmovable, untouchable. The devil can attack your body, but he can't touch your peace. He can stir up confusion, but he can't steal what God has placed on the inside of you. He can try to intimidate you, but he cannot dismantle what heaven has established. Some of you right now are waiting for life to calm down so you can feel at peace. But life may not calm down when you want it to. The waves may keep rolling, the winds may keep blowing. But here's the good news, you don't need life to calm down, you just need the peace of God to rise up. Because when his peace rises, the storm loses its power over you. When his peace rises, the battle can rage, but it won't consume you. When his peace rises, you stop reacting to the chaos around you and start resting in the presence within you. So stop waiting for perfect conditions to have peace. Stop treating peace like it's fragile, like it can be broken by bad news or shaken by setbacks. The peace of God is stronger than that. It's durable. It's unshakable, it's eternal. And when you hold on to that peace, you will not just survive the storm, you will outlast it. That's why you can stand still, lift your head, and declare with boldness the peace God gave me is the peace I'm keeping, and no storm can take it away. Trust has the power to transform the way you walk through any trial. Trials may not vanish just because you prayed. Storms may not end simply because you asked, but the way you endure, the way you hold yourself, the way you respond, that changes when you put your trust in God. Trust doesn't mean you understand everything. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. It doesn't even mean you like what's happening. Trust means you have settled in your spirit that no matter what it looks like, God is still in control. The challenge is that human nature wants clarity before commitment. We want to see the outcome before we surrender the process. But trust is the opposite. It's walking even when you don't see. It's believing even when you don't feel. It's resting even when nothing around you is restful. And here's what happens the moment you shift from worry to trust. The trial no longer controls you. The trial may surround you, but it no longer defines you. You stop living under it and start walking through it. Trust transforms the trial because it gives you perspective. You start to see that what felt like punishment may actually be preparation. That what looked like delay might actually be direction. Trust makes you look beyond the surface, beyond the pain, and recognize that God's hand is still at work even when his face seems hidden. And when you realize that, the trial loses its power to paralyze you. There are some things you will never understand while you're in them. There are seasons where the why will never be clear until much later. But if you wait until you understand to trust, you'll miss the peace that only trust can bring. Because trust is not about information, it's about relationship. You're not trusting the trial, you're trusting the God who reigns over the trial. And that shift changes everything. Think about it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't escape the fire. They trusted in the fire. Daniel didn't avoid the lion's den. He trusted in the den. Paul didn't skip the prison. He trusted while chained in it. The trial remained, but trust gave them strength to endure. And in the end, their trust turned the trial into testimony. That's what God wants to do for you. When you trust him, you gain clarity to stand firm instead of collapsing under pressure. When you trust him, you gain courage to keep moving instead of freezing in fear. When you trust him, you gain strength that doesn't come from your own willpower, but from his Spirit sustaining you. Trust doesn't erase the difficulty, but it transforms the way you walk through it. Some of you have been praying for the trial to end, and that's good. But what if God is more interested in changing you in the trial than changing the trial itself? What if the strength, the maturity, the faith he is building in you is the very reason the trial still lingers? That's why trust matters. It keeps you steady long enough to receive the growth that comes only through fire. So don't waste your trial in worry. Don't let fear rob you of the very peace God promised. Choose to trust even when it doesn't make sense. Because when you trust, you won't just go through the trial, you'll grow through it. And that growth will carry you into the victory God already has prepared. Trust him and watch the trial turn into your testimony.